So the children of the new paradigm, what is it? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your kids? What does it mean to you if you don't have kids? Well, so we're going to go through and discuss all that first. Well, let's just do this. If the new person, we'll just pick on you. Do you want to come up? I can just work on you really quick, kind of help you disconnect from a lot of shit. Okay?
Okay, we have Harriet.
Yeah. Hey, buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Good. Yeah. I've worked on you before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not in person, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. It just seems like there's been a lot of shifts in you, a lot of, say, realizations.
Yeah.
But when I see you, you're just kind of holding them from what I'm seeing. So a lot of us do that, right? We start to shift, we start to change, we start to see our, patterns that aren't, say, beneficial for us. And then what do? It's like, well, I'm not going to leave them because it still keeps me secure, but then I'm going to store them away somewhere. So in a sense, it's like, this furniture is not good. It looks ugly in every room possible. I hate how it makes me feel, but it's good furniture. It might be worth something, maybe someday, and then I'm just going to store it somewhere in my attic, okay? So, and then you store a lot of stuff right here, buddy. So that's where you're pushing all those things that you say want to let go, but you think it's important for you someday. I think your family just has a habit of holding on to their identities too long. So imagine that. So say your grandmother, right? She's got full of stuff that you inherited, and a lot of that stuff is worthless, right? It's worthless. But imagine like 10, 20, 100 generations back, or however, whenever your family started, all those things that people thought were worth holding on to, you are a cumulative total. Does that make sense to you guys? It's just not furniture, though. It's not the heirlooms that are worthless or anything like that. It's just patterns. It's just patterns that dictate your life. So this is what the new paradigm is about. Children of the new paradigm is really about. So for you, just releasing this bottom layer for you, and then you will feel really scared, because you seem that there's a lot of fear pattern in you when you were younger, from what I'm seeing. Yeah. So as a young kid, and maybe that's why you hold on to things. Well, it goes deeper than that. But as a young kid, you're probably just holding on to life just to feel secure. So now you hold on to anything just to feel secure. But it never makes you feel secure. So you're going to feel really, really insecure. But then in a very short while, it's like, oh, wow, I feel more safe than ever. And then you're going to go, damn, I wish I would have let this shit go long time ago. Especially when you're like 17, from what I'm saying. All right. Very nice. And then, do you want me to work on you real quick? Yeah. Okay. So, how are you doing? Are you like new to me or new to me? Okay. So there's a lot of fear in you, from what I'm seeing. Do you mind asking how old you are?
46.
Okay. You seem like really young to me. So spiritually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So like under 10 years old, there's probably a lot of drama in your family, or a lot of abuse or whatever had happened in your family, and you just literally got stunted. So, and you can never let that pattern go. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it's just too hard to let it go, because if we open that closet door to clean it out, a lot of memories will come back out. And then you just slam the door, because I see that you've wanted to go deep and clean, and disconnect from all that stuff. But again, as soon as you open that door, it's like, oh my gosh, let's just close it, because it brings back a lot of memories. So let's just do it a safe way. Let's just do it at a distance if we can. Does that make sense to you? So you can kind of see it from maybe behind a glass door, and maybe somebody else can pull those memories out, like your spirit. It's like, hey, look at this. And then it'll remind you of your childhood, but it's like watching a movie for you. You'd be removed from it, and then that way you can look at those, say, experiences or situations without really having to go back in time and remember or experience. Okay? and then you get to clean up really fast that way. So this is just that initial space. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Even dream states, from what I'm saying.
Pardon me?
Even dream states. You might have a lot of dreams that you're trying to escape, but you can't. That kind of feel as well. Does that make sense to you?
Sometimes.
It's because spiritually you're trying to escape your own distortions of the past, but you can never escape. So, so let's get rid of that as well. There you go. So it's going to be really fun for you tonight. You get to let go of a lot of stuff. All right?
Thanks, thank
You're
you.
so welcome. So, all right, guys. So what we're going to do is not just a talk. We're gonna talk about some of the concepts of, say, the new paradigm, and then also we're going to do some meta healings in between. Okay, and then also part of the 20 days accelerated. So it's pretty intense. Especially with my abilities nowadays, and those people online, probably a lot more people online. And did somebody hit record, by the way? Feifei, can you guys hit record? Okay, thanks. It is. Can you turn it up a little? That's the situations in life, right? All right. So children of the new paradigm. So what is the new paradigm? So I've talked about this for a while, and almost all of my predictions have come true. It becomes more and more apparent that we are, say, in a time frame where literally time ends. It's not that time ends. It's not the end of the world. It's like a new beginning. Okay? So again, it's not the end of the world. It's really a deep pattern of, say, massive transformation. So in the way I see it, the density, the heaviness, the distortions, the abuse patterns, and then the total opposite is not needed anymore. So it makes sense. Just like your old phone, the original cell phone was this big block, right? And it didn't do much for us. Okay? So nowadays, I mean, you have a whole computer. Like this thing used to be a whole building at one time, but now it's condensed, right? It's more complete. It's really dynamic. You can do a ton of stuff with it. So in this new reality, what we're doing is like, okay, we've really identified, or we've really gotten comfortable with our human form, the physical being of being here, the identity of being here. Does that make sense to you? Right? But we're not using it to the full potential. So with that in mind, and again, most of us really don't pay attention. We just kind of go with the flow. So and that's something else I'll cover as well. And by the way, I kind of jump around. It confuses you, which is really good because you can't close up your thought process. That doesn't close up. So just be aware of that, because it's more of a mental mind mapping for you rather than a linear thought for you. So you learn, you not only learn, but you actually start to, say, instill that knowledge, so you start living off it. Okay? So it pushes you. And it's a lot more efficient this way for you to transform, and that's why even when I speak, yes, I'm generating those frequencies, but it's more efficient for you because, well, I'm helping you instill the frequencies so you start to live the knowledge, and then you accept the knowledge later at a conscious level. So the knowledge that I teach you is fresh and it's concentrated. Okay? Kind of like orange juice. It's fresh and it's concentrated for you. So. But it's not frozen, never frozen. It's always fresh. So that way, because all the other ways that you've learned, no matter what it is, acceptance and all, college, elementary school, the way you learn from your parents, what did you do as a cognitive thought process, right? You broke it down to, say, the simplest pattern that you understood, and then you embraced it. That's how you accept knowledge. Does that make sense to you? Right? You have to understand it to accept it. Otherwise, it doesn't embed in your brain. You can't recall it. You can't identify it. You can't use it. Unfortunately, when you break it down to the same level that you are, well, that higher level knowledge that could have helped you, it doesn't help you anymore because you broke it down to the same level that you're at already. And that's why it takes a long, long time to go through the process of reading motivation or anything like that, or even like reading scripture if if you're a religious or spiritual person. Again, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter to me, but the content is there. Yeah, go ahead, have some. The way you learn is going to be very different in the near future. Okay? And you know how some people, when the computers came on, they decided not to learn, right? Like some of the older people, right? It's like, no, that's just something that the younger people do. It doesn't work that way. You are forced to learn this new paradigm. Otherwise, you don't exist, okay? It's your own programming code. You can't say opt out. If you do opt out, well, you're not here anymore. That's part of the process. It's just a whole new, say, version of humans. So that's what it goes down to. For example, when the internet first came out, okay, it transformed this reality in a very short time. It was like a wildfire, right? And back then it was just, black screen, green letters. Remember that? And you had to stick in your floppy disk and the DOS and all that, and then start up. Even that, when it was that cumbersome, everybody, say, migrated to the computer. And then later on, as we got adept to it, do you guys remember AOL, America Online, and all that stuff, that modem sound and all that? You'd hear that. Anyway, after that, we got really adept to it. We started to, shift and transform amazingly fast. Right? We'll talk about the speed of, how things change as well, and the reasons why. We went onto the internet. And now in the beginning, the internet was very basic. It was very, textual. Not a lot of pictures and so on, but then later on it became pictures. Now you have streaming videos, streaming content. There's so much content out there that you literally drown. There's, I don't know how many posts on YouTube alone per minute. It's amazing how much content. So everything is literally being recorded about you, literally. The phones that you hear or the phones that you use, it's probably recording your conversations and all that as well. But we're not going to get into that, okay? But the point is that it spread so amazingly fast, the internet. Now, can you guys imagine a day without the internet? Just say your server provider goes down or your internet goes down. It's like you're toast. It's like you can't do a damn thing without it, right? Although you lived like that maybe, back in the mid-'80s, so it's not that far along. It's not that far ago, right? Not that long ago, right? But now what do you do? Now look at the kids, right? They're on the internet. So that's a massive change of consciousness. And it's not a change of, say, utility or efficiency. It was the other way around. Where the consciousness started to go, okay, we need to become more adept, more efficient in the ways of thinking, in the ways of communicating. So now that layer peeled away, and then the advent of the internet and all that started to come about. So I stress that it's not that the army needed something, because it came out of the army. The army needed something. It's like, okay, we're going to use the internet to communicate. Does that make sense to you? It's not a need-based invention. Most inventions are not, say, need-based. Conventional, say, wisdom thinks there's a need, and then somebody comes up with a concept or an idea to fulfill that need. But it doesn't really work that way. It's totally the opposite. There's a consciousness that opens up for humanity, and then the need arrives. That's why, say, in the 50s, nobody would ever think of the internet, although there was people, or back when Tesla was around, he could tap into the consciousness, and that's where he saw the internet, wireless mechanisms, all those things that were out there already. So I just want to stress that it wasn't, say, a human cognitive aha moment. It wasn't derived from a need-based. Okay? It was derived from opening up a new consciousness. Okay? With every layer, every decade or so, there's a whole new consciousness. tiny onion layers that peel away. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But now, what happens is that each layer that's peeling away, those layers are getting thicker. And have you seen the size of if you peel away an onion, does that make sense? It's bigger, right? So you peel it away, so there's a lot of content, but it gets more and more, say, concentrated or smaller, right? And you peel away. So those levels are more concentrated. And, well, it's very similar to the consciousness here. So one little peel of, say, peeling that layer away is a huge impact on human consciousness, okay? So literally, we're all, at a deeper level, we're all like programs that are dictated by this consciousness that, say, controls us or operates us. Right? Now that sounds like a robot nation or a slave nation. Not really. Unfortunately, many people think it is a slave nation or a robot nation. Just look at society today. Most of people do the same damn thing over and over again for centuries. Right? Lineage after lineage, we do the same thing over and over because nobody ever looks and goes, oh shit, we could do things a whole different way. We could do it totally different. But nobody ever does that except very few individuals, right? So the advent of the internet just allowed us to get dumber, where it should have allowed us to spend more time becoming conscious of who we are. So it's actually distorted, say, who we are. So, and then some people go, well, Facebook is bad. We shouldn't use Facebook. I think, in fact, Elon Musk said, I want to buy Facebook and then delete it. He's got enough money to do that. So literally, it's a program that runs. But it's a program that dictates your life. If you look at it. Even if you're not on social media, it literally dictates your life. Right? Most women, middle-aged women, are on Facebook or Instagram. They run their whole life based on whoever they're following. Right? Most of the people they follow are very similar to who they are, though, unfortunately. So, so that type of, say, power or control over you, okay? There's a bigger consciousness, much bigger than Facebook or Google or the government or anything that controls you. Okay? Why do you think those consciousnesses, or why do you think the government can control you? Again, if we think back to what I said, and again, it's kind of an intense talk. If you think back to what I said, is that there's a consciousness that opens up, and then you get the idea of some control. Okay? So this consciousness eventually, basically what the world will kind of start to do is create, say, one big consciousness, say, that controls. Back in the day, was it Orson Welles? It's a big brother that watches everything that you do. Well, that's here. You walk around any street corner or whatever, bank teller, whatever, building, right, store, whatever, they've got you on camera. You will not believe what they have on file about you. Okay? That crazy lady out there, Miss Unstable, she's reported us to, I don't know how many authorities that I didn't even know existed. Crazy. So, and they've searched all the stuff about me. Unfortunately, there's nothing about me. I'm clean, which is really nice, which is really awesome. But it was stuff that I didn't, it's like, holy shit, I actually did that, I remember, you know what I mean? It's like so many files on you. Every time you, say, click a button or look at a website, all those things are dialogued or cataloged and put in Facebook or Google or whatever else that's out there. And probably programs that just like run your system. So I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm just telling you that there's a consciousness out there that literally does the same thing. We mimic, or we're mimicking that consciousness. Okay? So as we go higher and higher, what happens is that, again, we get to have one consciousness, or say one world order. That's what's happening nowadays. It's like one world order. Okay? And that sounds really scary to you, right? But actually it's a breaking point. Because at that level of consciousness, again, at your spirit level, say for example me, at the level that I'm at, and there's a lot higher levels, by the way. This is just the beginning for us. There's a lot higher levels. So for me, I can tap into and pretty much read any of your files. You can name it, I can read it for you. Okay? So, but there's no trust issue. The level or the reason why I can do that, pretty much anybody that's dead or alive, I can read anybody's file. Okay? Personal stuff, all that stuff. I don't use it against you. I don't judge you. I just read it as it is. Does that make sense to you guys? So that key is very important. That's why I have access, and that's why I can say change you. But the powers to be use it to control you, and it's a one-way system. That's why when you get into, say, the Big Brother type scenario, what happens is that it flips around, and then all access to all information is available to everybody. It's not that the government controls, and usually it's like, well, we need to keep like national security and all that, right? That's why we keep files. That's not true at all. It's just totally about control and designing your, say, future path according to their structure, not yours. Okay? So this new paradigm that's coming through allows you to see all the ways that you've been controlled. And it's not this reality again. There's like, again, bubbles of consciousness that control. Like there was a bubble of consciousness that controlled, the Germans. There's a bubble of consciousness that controls whatever, say, culture or religion or color or whatever. All those things are your programming. So whether you call it a consciousness or your nationality or your color, whatever it might be, it's just literally a consciousness that you're operating from. Okay? Now again, this sounds scary, but this is the path to freedom. Because once you learn, say, the programming language or the code, and this is what this new paradigm is about, you're getting pushed to understand what the code is about. So you're getting pushed to understand who you really are, how you were created, how you were programmed. Say that level of access is coming forward for us. And it's amazing. But then again, most of us don't want to hold responsibility for the most simplest things in life. And that's, say, the rub, or that's the crux. Because most of us want, our politicians, our council members, our teachers, for your kids, right? Most of the parents aren't really parents anymore. They expect the teachers to discipline my kids, the kids and all that. Does that make sense? It doesn't work like that way anymore. You are the programmer. So whatever that you think is part of this new paradigm starts to become reality for you. Does that make sense? Just think of the stuff that you think. Okay? I still do have that access, but I turned it off or squelched it because I'd walk by somebody and I'd just pick up on what I was like, oh my God, what the hell are these people thinking of? And they call that a life, And no offense, but most of us think of just the smallest things. And then we just keep repeating that pattern over and over and over and over again. So why do you think your life is the way it is, right? It's not going to happen like that anymore. You're going to be pushed into present moment time. No matter what. You're going to be like forced to be awakened. No matter what it is, you're going to be forced to see the programs that you're running. Okay? It's a big shift. It's another version of being human. Okay? The old paradigms or the old versions of being human, those get deleted. Those aren't supported for you anymore. So if you're running patterns of guilt, of shame, of not being good enough, all those patterns that we run, right? Being needy, being somebody else, again, to support us and all that, it just doesn't exist. Somebody can support you, say, financially or, other physical means, but most of us really want support at, say, a spirit level. That aspect of it cannot exist anymore. It's too heavy. It's too burdensome for the system, right? Because we're going to get more efficient. So efficiency dictates that you just can't allow somebody else to carry your burdens. Because most of the time when people carry their burdens, and this is part of the religion and spirituality that I don't get, or being a good person, because there's so many individuals that say, well, if I worry about somebody, or if I slave away, or if I burden my own life, right, say like Mother Teresa, then what will happen is that I'm going to set the world free. It doesn't work that way. It didn't work for her. It's not going to work for you, especially because she's highly evolved. If it didn't work for you, you're at the lower frequencies than her. It's not going to work for you, really. So that whole idea of holding on to somebody's patterns has to get deleted. You can't hold on to your children's patterns, your love patterns, your parents' patterns, your loved ones and your parents. None of that can exist anymore. You're all, say, independent. And again, that sounds scary to many of you, but at the same time, it's the grandest moment of freedom. How many people want freedom here? How many are willing to go through the process of it? A little like, so most of you, if you were new, you'd go, I don't know, what does that mean, right? And those online as well. So this is the new paradigm that we're all, dude, I love that t-shirt. I just saw it, the Rick and Morty shirt. I love it. I had socks earlier today with Rick and Morty. Where was I? God, see, Rick and Morty just threw me off. So this new paradigm that's coming through, as I call it, a purity wave, because it's simpler to understand. So if you think of this wave, an ocean wave, it's huge. It just comes through and just washes through everything. It soaks everything, okay? And it cleanses out everything. And as it pulls away, it pulls out all the distortions, the inefficiencies of this existence. Okay? To give you an impact on, say, how deep that goes, say that, patterns in this next version of, say, like severe abuse and so on, those things have to leave. Okay? And then also the flip side, again, like extreme, like euphoria, which is actually destructive as well. Okay? So those two patterns leave because they're both like extremes, right? What we're trying to do is get efficient, because whenever you're too extreme, you can never, say, experience all. Does that make sense to you? If you're completely on, say, euphoria side, you can never, say, be balanced or harmonized, right? So you have to be actually like right straight in the middle, like many of you are coming into, where your emotions are straight in the middle. It's a higher level of emotion, consciousness, and so on. And then what happens is that you can experience the extremes, but it's from a solid state, and it like enhances you. And it's really an amazing feeling for those who haven't reached it. Again, it's an amazing feeling that once you feel it, once you get the taste, it's like, damn, that's the way, say, love should be. That's the way hate should be. That's the way, say, rejection should be. Because all those emotions, you're going to live it in full color. It's not like you move away from negative emotions and move towards the positive emotions, because that's distortions of religion and spirituality and being a good person. Oh, I didn't finish the good person part. That's what it was. So, God, now I lost it again. So, sorry. So with that in mind, it's not that, again, you, say, move away and you're just going to be in a bliss state, and you're going to be, say, solid and strong, but it allows you to understand or feel and experience all the emotions that humans can. And actually, when you start to delete some of those patterns of extremes, you start to feel and start to sense and start to smell and start to hear, say, different, say, sounds, colors, emotions, and so on, that hasn't even been created in this reality, because you can't. You can't create this. You can't create, say, the beautiful aspects, the more beautiful colors, and I've actually been at those levels, and it's amazing frequencies that are up there, but we can't go there because human consciousness is here. Does that make sense? So you can't experience it. It'd be like your dog. They hear a different, sound, right, frequencies than us. Right? So even if we did go there, we couldn't hear it because we wouldn't have the ability. But as we all transcend there, we start to see, say, a whole different reality of how, well, this reality works. And it's quite amazing, and it's actually quite beautiful compared to what's here. Everything is in like high def, and again, very, very different, but quite beautiful. And the dark moments or the dark experiences that you have, like hate, jealousy, greed, fear, envy, and all that, those are emotions that'll start to motivate you towards your higher self. You get a taste of that, and those are powerful emotions. But how many people have been taught to, you have to stay away from your negative emotions, you have to be in your good place, you have to do X and Y and Z, you have to do anything, even take medication to numb you down so you can be happy. That's why people who take a lot of medications, Prozac and whatever else, they're just like numb. Because you can't do that. You can't say move from one side to the other. So all those layers, again, start to get peeled away. Getting back to the religious, spiritual, or the good people frequency, I just want to bring that up because in today's society, a lot of people get judged by being a good person. Okay? No matter what you do, it's always, well, am I a good person or a bad person? No matter what it is for almost everybody. Okay? It's always based on good person, bad person. Did I do this good? Did I feel good? Where did that come from? It's all recognition from the outside on what you did and who you are. That cannot exist anymore. You cannot base, like, say, your suffering and the definition of a good, what's the definition of a good person? Helping somebody out, carrying other people's burdens, not being selfish, not being greedy, all those things, right? Does that make sense to you? Right? There's nothing wrong with those emotions. There's really nothing wrong with those emotions. Those are literally, say, a facade on abusive patterns that control you. Because, well, if you were, say, selfish and complete, you'd want everything that is, say, deserving for you. That's why that pattern exists, right? So if you get something that's deserving, well, then you're selfish. So basically, the people or the consciousness that abuses you will use those guilt factors. Because a lot of people, especially Americans, run from guilt factors based on religion and spirituality and the government. So that stuff doesn't work anymore. That's why more and more people, say, are awakening to this new concept. It's like, well, and it makes sense. Mathematically, it makes sense as well. It's like, well, what the hell? Why don't I just, say, help people by example? Because isn't that what you've been learned as well? But then I don't know how it got distorted, and that's what confuses me. How can religion and spirituality and society go along the path of, well, you have to really burden yourself to be a good person. So burdening equals a good person. No matter what it is for most people, even if you don't believe it, there's that consciousness that's so strong that you still resonate under that frequency. You'd have to be quite strong to, say, remove yourself from it. So and when you start to burden yourself, you're not showing off, say, a complete example. So with the new paradigm is and I talk about this, you might get selfish, you might get greedy, you might get, say, jealous, and so on. Again, really negative frequencies or attitudes, right? Especially because good people, that shouldn't be the case. We should never do that. But in this reality, what you're doing in this new consciousness is like you're creating or you're absorbing the resources that you need to be complete. So say that you're drowning. Do you worry about anything else other than saving your ass? You don't, right? Okay. So as you awaken, as this layer, say, peels away, you're going to feel like, holy crap, I've been drowning in this minutia. I've been drowning in all the distortions, the abuse patterns, and all the stuff that's out there that's just like threatening my system, threatening my life. So what do? You start to become selfish. You start to defend your space. You start to become really, really strong and complete. Right? If it didn't work so well, why did Jesus, like, I don't know, how many years did he disappear? 10 years or whatever? 30 years? Oh, I don't think it was 30 years, but like 17 years, whatever. Jesus or Buddha disappeared, Muhammad disappeared, a lot of great individuals disappeared. Again, they got selfish. They got selfless with their time, right? Because most people destroy time or don't use it wisely. So really, really intelligent individuals, what they do that transform the world, they start to become isolated, like many of you are becoming isolated or more independent. You deserve to be, say, less of what's out there so you can create your own programming. That's what it's about. Does that make sense to you? So there's more and more and more individuals, say, awakening to this new paradigm of being, say, self-sufficient, complete. Even jealousy, for some of you go, well, what is jealousy? How does that work? You get jealous and you go, and you look at somebody and you go, wait a second, why don't I deserve that? Why can't I deserve that? Why can't that dress look good on me? Does that make sense? Right? Because we all should be, say, the same or have a level of abundance, even if you think of it the old standard way, right? We should feel good about ourselves, so there's nothing wrong with that. But again, as you become, say, truly successful, not fake success, not just like having money, but say that 360 degrees of abundance, then you get to reflect who you are, and then your kids, like many of you have seen, your kids start to switch around, your loved ones start to switch around, your family starts to switch around. That's how you really help people. I mean, there's cases in this room from what I'm seeing, right? Your family is switched around from the stuff that you've done with me, right? And that's what the end goal was, right? To really help people. So you're doing it for the positive, the right way. And it's very efficient and it's beneficial for you, because why should somebody else say, get enlightened? By the way, they never get enlightened. They just suffer more than you do. Because you suffer more to enlighten them to a certain point so they can pass that on. So in this new paradigm, as we clear out, say, the underlying reasons why those things happen to us, again, this is where the truth comes out. This is where the children in the new paradigm start to come out. Because what happens is, like, you start to, say, see the patterns that you're actually sending off to your kids. Like in the beginning, I talked about what you inherited, and most of it is garbage. Most of you who, say, cleaned up, you've seen that most of the stuff that you've learned, that you've inherited, your illnesses, your lack of whatever, come from, say, your parents. Okay? And then you've sprinkled more of your stuff, a little bit of your stuff to spice it up. That's all. Your version of, say, the same recipe as your parents did, or the merging of the two parents. So over time, you're just handing that down. So what happens now is that this reality peels away, and then you actually get to see the recipes that you're giving to your kids. And it's scary. Okay? And I know everybody loves their kids, but do we really love our kids at a deep level? Because, I see patterns where people go, God, I love my kids so bad. It's like, well, at my consciousness level, well, if you're loving him so bad, why are you suffocating them to the extent that they can't survive, when they're older? They can't, like, run their own life, right? So why does that happen? I'm just going to say it, most parents have kids to extend their own distortions because they feel insecure. So they just feel insecure about their life. They feel incomplete in their marriage, in their life. So it's like, hey, let's have a kid. That'll, like, freshen things up for me. But basically, you're just finding a depository to extend that, and then a place of security. Because kids are vibrant kids, right? They're very spiritually clean, so they're really solid. So what do? You latch onto that kid, not to help them, but to actually help yourself, and then you just burden the hell out of them. Again, I'm not talking all parents, but I would say most parents. Unknowingly, they do that. Right? Have you ever seen those parents that just love their kids to death? Right? They're little kids, right? And they just, like, love them to death and make sure. You know what I see? Whenever they hug that kid, just all this stuff just like pours into them. And in a short time, they have the same insecurities as the parents. I think I'm not cutting anybody down, but that's what's happening. I'm just telling you the truth. Right? I just see that over and over and over. And then we call that love. I don't call that love. I just call that an infusion of, say, insecurities and incompleteness. So when you get older, either you jump into them or you control their life. Look at your lives now. If you think I'm not nice or not telling the truth, look at the patterns that you run, right? The patterns that hold you back are from your parents. And then society helps it along. I mean, just think of it. That's what basically, you're doing to the kids that you have. So, another thing that's coming up too lately is pets. Pets are used in the same way. Have you ever noticed that people like treat their pets as a kid? It's a surrogate depository. And then those pets, those dogs, cats, giraffes, horses, whatever that we have out there, what do? We would just dump all that stuff, and then they get the same diseases as humans. In nature, there's no such thing as cancers and all that stuff. There's nothing. There's no disease of like heart failure, kidney failure, things like that, because evolutionary process dictates that those things get deleted out of the line. It just does. But we're so distorted, we're just dumping that stuff onto our pets. That's why, have you noticed, like pets, you start looking like your pet? Do you know why that is? Because you're resonating at the same frequency. Because people go, oh gosh, that's true love. Or when two people start looking alike, for most of the time, it's not true love. It's like, hey, let's match up so it makes it more efficient for me to download all my garbage onto you and vice versa, okay? And you go, okay. And then you start to conform because your garbage goes into them, their garbage goes into you, and then you're just a oneness of stuff. I hate to say it that way, but... So this new paradigm doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't allow you to transfer all that garbage. Okay? It literally cleans that out. Besides, there's no space to hold on to that concept of whatever that we disconnect from. So think of it this way, and many of you are say, in this phase. Say that I've helped you with abuse patterns and you've deleted it. And then you try to go back and remember that memory of abuse, and you can't. Does that make sense? You can access it kind of, but you can't run, say, the same emotions. You can't get abused by it. You can't. Why does that happen? Because that consciousness in you cannot exist if you want to disconnect from abuse. That's how deep exponential intelligence goes. And it's all part of this new wave that's coming through. And it accelerates over time. You've seen my abilities increase. You've seen a lot of changes in you, whether you do EI or not, start to say come through. It's an amazing process for you. If you start to learn to say embrace it rather than fear it. Just like when the new computer systems came on, how many people like embraced it, and then how many people like I'm too scared to learn it, you know, or a new task or new whatever. So you're going to get forced to learn it because your old way of like humans is not here anymore. That version of humans is going to be deleted. Literally like Facebook with Elon Musk. It does not exist anymore. It can't exist anymore. So let's do a meta healing. And I know it's a deep talk, guys, but it's okay. It's all good. Yeah, let's do if you guys want to stand up, sit down, lie down, whatever it is. I'll just guide you into those states of what we're, say, seeing in the future. Yeah. It's always easier to transform when we're excited about what we're getting into. Does that make sense? We forget about the work that's involved. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? It's like, hey, I want to go on this great vacation, this and this and this. It's like, well, you have to pay X amount of money. It drops down, you know. Then you have to do some this and this and this, and then eventually it's like, oh man, it's too much work. I'll just stay where I am. Okay. So let's give you, say, that goal. That what this whole new paradigm is about, the new paradigm, and you'll see it's worth it. So as we take a deep breath in, just noticing where you are, noticing the space around you, noticing you in your space. Noticing the group dynamics. So there's people online, there's people here. mastermind. So it's a little drop of human consciousness. As we take a deep breath in again, asking ourselves, how do I connect to pure source even stronger? Or how do I become my best possible self? My high performance self, or high performance consciousness. So what do I have to do? What do I have to disconnect from? As we think back, like say hundreds of years ago, or thousands of years ago, or even like Stone Age, where they didn't have, say, facilities, you lived in a cave. How would you like that? And then we started inventing tools. Again, not because of need, because that consciousness opened up. We started inventing tools, materializing things differently. And as we take a deep breath in, again inhaling through the nose, nice and deep. To the 1800s. You can notice the heaviness that's in that space. Some of you go, well, it's a simpler time. Yeah, it was a simpler time. Not very efficient. No electricity, no water. Bathing outside. Those are simple standards. Would you like to live then? Some of you go, well, maybe because it'll be simpler. No, you're just carrying the same garbage living back then. So you'd still look at it the same way. It's not the level of technology. I just want to assure you, it's not the level of technology. It's not the state of society that distorts you. You can't but go back to simpler times to make it easier for you. So as we take a deep breath in again, in the 1900s, age of mechanics, transportation, communication at a lower level. 1960s, 1970s. Do you see how things sped up? The technological advances sped up. There's a reason for that. It's not that we got smarter. 1980s, 90s, 2000, all the way up to 2019. Throughout that time, do you notice that overall time just moves faster? Does that make sense to most of you? Because time does move faster. Time is not a constant state. So if I push you into, say, a decade or two forward, you'll notice that time speeds up. So you notice that you have to, say, keep up with the times. as you go, say, 50 years ahead. Time speeds up even more. But then also it's more efficient. So now you're looking at that point of reference. I can tell from, say, a burdening standpoint, it's like, holy shit, how am I going to keep up with all this? So you're still thinking from your point of reference. Let's see if I can help you, say, connect to the consciousness that creates that time warp. So just notice your chest or the sternum, the bone, right? That your chest bone together. Let's help you connect with time. To notice what happens. Are you freer? Are you more expansive? Are you more efficient? Are you more happier? Does that make sense to you? It's not about technological advances. It's not about who you know, who you love. It's about space and time locking into it. If you go, say, 100 or 200 or 300 years into the future, and time speeds up even more. You might not be here, your consciousness is, and you're locked into time. So there's two scenarios. If you're not locked into time, probably like a machine-controlled society. If you are locked into time, it's euphoria. As you go deeper or farther into time, you get to see that you get to a point that you start transcending time. And then your full capabilities are imagined. Basically, you live in a timeless space, here in physical form. So your complete grandness, here in physical form, without the filter of time and space. That's our trajectory. So what would you do to live in your complete spirit connection? And again, from what I've seen time and time and time again, let's say that consciousness of pure source or just your higher consciousness comes in, and you have that choice, there's no question. You just go, I'm out of here from time. That's your home. That's where you feel complete. That's where there's no obstruction in your potential. Take that magnificent breath in. Do you notice at those levels, it's complete transparency? Everybody knows everything about you, but it's all good. There's no judgment. It's just all good. Do you notice at those levels that there's no abuse or control? Although it's very strict, say, laws that govern that reality, like laws of freedom though. So you can be your best possible self, achieve the highest performance without burdening anything or anyone else. Because again, that burden, that distorts. Because that's a concept of time. It's a distortion of time and space. So you can't be controlled. Would you be carrying the illnesses or the shortcomings of your body? The deterioration of your body as you age? Well, would there be age? Some of you might actually be around to experience it in physical form, and then those who don't get to experience it at a spirit level. Because those realities start to merge as time goes faster and faster and faster. There's no separation of time and space and then your higher self, the timeless self. It's a complete immersion. we take a deep breath in, just keep you in this space. You can have a seat and sit down and relax. So we talked about the new paradigm and what it means. So the thing about new paradigms, people get scared and then they hold back, right? And then say like your government or your spouse or whatever that controls you, your careers, your businesses and all that, they start to control you, and then you want to run away from that control, but then you control the people who are around you at the same time. So it's the same thing, you're just seeing it at a higher order. But as I pointed out, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to control people. So as you go through the process, just like any idea or concept that's like escaping you, you're going to try your best, say, to let go of that grip. So government systems and so on, they'll start to latch onto you, but that's the breaking point. Okay? They're doing it already. For example, Facebook, they'll have a truth button or something like that. I don't know all the details. So people are going to verify, experts are going to verify what's true or not on Facebook and Instagram. They'll have a little button. Do you know who the authorities are? Federal government and George Soros. So that's how they're going to control the masses. And at the same time, you are getting, so as this wave comes through and it clarifies you, it's going to be harder and harder for you to control yourself, because you can't control other people, let alone yourself. It's not that you lose control, but you come into a higher state of, say, authority and responsibility for yourself. Okay? So what does that mean to you and your kids? Well, it's huge, because nowadays, if you're seeing the kids, they're in their early 20s, right? And there's just a ton of them. They're in their early 20s, and some of them might be, well, they're against society, they're against the old patterns and all that. Well, they are. That's true. But they're not bad kids, right? They're just standing up and going, wait a second, this shit didn't work for you, right? We don't want it. We don't want to even run with it, right? The religion, the societies, the financial system, all those things, it didn't work for you. It didn't work for your parents. It didn't work for your grandparents. Why are we like forced, or why are you shoving it down our throats? I said that at the last kids event. A lot of people got turned off by it, and because they thought it was about this concept that you should acknowledge your parents, you should honor your parents, and you should, but then you should also push against what's not true in your parents. And a lot of people did not like that. I'm not here to make you feel good or anything like that. Maybe down the line, but I'm just here to expose the truth, to get some efficient, transformations in your life. So that's what the kids are actually seeking, or that's why they're standing up. So young adults, they're looking at their life and going, wait a second, the 40-plus hour work week, it's a slave nation. Right? They're looking at the government systems. You're literally working for the government. If you pay as much taxes as I do, you basically go, hell, you're working for the government, and how they scrutinize everything, right? You're not working for yourself. This isn't a free country. So all those things, kids are awakening. We all knew it at the time, but then we didn't do anything about it, right? We go, well, that's a status quo. We can't do anything about it. This new generation, it's like hell. We're not going to take it on, and we're going to do something about it. And that's why, there's a big evolution coming out for you, which is really cool, by the way, for the young kids. Although they might look, say, rambunctious. Unfortunately, what happens is that the kids know that there's something wrong, but there's no good solutions or icons or examples to go, okay, we know this is wrong, but then where do we go? And that's what the problem is. So it's amazing how many younger kids that are coming over to understand EI, and they're going, holy shit, this is so efficient, because they see it as a programming language. Many adults see it as a spiritual basis. They don't see it like that. They just see it as a programming language to get what they really want, who they really are. And that's very different, because when you start to think of EI as a spiritual type connection, and it is spiritual connection because it gets you what you want. Why do you have religions and spirituality? To find yourself and really be complete. That's the only reason why religion and spirituality exist. Does that make sense to you? Right? But it's never worked out. But that's the basic theme. So when, say, again, adults start to think of EI as a spiritual movement, well, you're mixing all the distortions of spirituality and religion, so it's a little harder for you, because then it's about, okay, I got to be a good person, I got to do this and that. It's not like that. It's literally just a straight programming language for you. So the younger kids, they're seeing this because they're not tainted as much by religion, although some of them are. It's like, I met this young kid, and he has a lot of issues and stuff. And he goes, why don't you listen to the 21 days? And he goes home, comes back and thinks about it. He goes, because I'm Christian. It's like, what the hell? It's like going to a doctor or something, It's like, but there's people that do that. I don't know why that came up, but, it sounds really, say, simple, right? Or really strange. But as we start to awaken, a lot of the reasons why you don't embrace your higher self will just be just as silly. In fact, as you ascended and you look back into your old self, aren't there a lot of patterns that you let go that was just absolute downright, just like, why the hell did I even think of that? Okay? Your kids are saying that before they get to your age. That's the only difference. Okay? So what happens at, say, a younger version, say like puberty to late teens, 20s, so those kids, what happened to those kids is that they start to get really distorted, because those are really, they're solidification times, and you solidify with who you are. Okay? Unfortunately, it's not a disturbing time, but it's, say, not the most calmest time, because there's so many changes that are coming about. Does that make sense to you? So from puberty to, again, the late or early 20s, you start to solidify with your patterns, and it's harder for you to change after that. But if you're in that environment around that age and you're solidifying where you're seeing your parents, right? And then you're trying to escape from them, but then there's nothing to escape to, because you're not adhering not to even their own standards or patterns, then where do you go? So those individuals start to, say, get a little lost for a time being, until they learn how to, say, stand on their own. Does that make sense to you guys, how that works? Right? It's very important. So if you have teenagers, and whether they do EI or not, it doesn't matter. This consciousness wave that's coming through, it's a universal pattern, like I said in the past, earlier. It's going to affect everybody. It just doesn't matter who you are. It's going to affect everybody. It's a wave of, say, consciousness going through. It's not going to be, well, I'm different, or I'm Christian, or whatever. It's not going to affect me. It affects everything, because you're human. You're here in this reality. So again, if you have kids, or you are kids that are listening in, there's going to be a lot of distortion. There's going to be a lot of, say, misunderstanding, because you're going to go into, say, different realities or different, say, densities of time. Basically, you're going to be in that pure state where you should be, and then you're going to go back into your parent type patterns or frequencies that, say, you didn't let go when you were earlier, where you should have, like, before your puberty. Right? Maybe I should have started the other way around. So that's why, again, those kids, just be mindful that I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but don't send your kids to psychologists where they give them drugs and all that, because it distorts them even more. It really does, because it's a time function. It's not a mental function. They're not disturbed. They don't have issues. They don't have, say, behavior problems. Not all of them. Right? And there's a very tiny percentage that actually have, say, physical behavior issues and all that. The others are just like time distortion, just like you were. Okay? For kids from puberty to, I want to say 7 years old, that's more of a liquid stage. So just to give you an example. So when you're from 0, okay, time of conception to when you're born and until, like, say you're 6, you're really fluid. It's like mixing a recipe, a cake recipe, right? You haven't put it in the oven yet. So you can add more ingredients, you can do whatever, okay? And then what you do is you put it in the oven, it starts to gel, it starts to form. It gets harder to change the recipe or add stuff in, right? By the time you hit puberty and, say, older, it solidifies. You can't really do anything with that cake. So, and it's harder, and that's why it's harder for adults to say shift, right? Because you have to go back and, like, literally reclaim or make that cake for some of you from scratch. And that's why it's hard. Okay? So from, again, kids from 7 to puberty, what happens is that they're gelling, so they go, wait a second, I see my parents' distortions, but they're going to be calling the distortions out on their parents. And then this is what parents go, well, because I said so, because the parents are insecure for some reason or another, they're not going to stand up to their weaknesses or distortions. And then what do? You slam that kid back in to, say, alignment, or you beat them up or whatever. Whether you go, well, I don't beat my kids up, well, at a spirit level you do. It's the same thing. It's probably worse at a spirit level, because then they don't own it. They don't even know what hit them until 20, 30, 40 years into the future. It's like, holy shit, this is how my parents taught me. So it's easier just to, again, I didn't say it, but slap them up physically than dump all your stuff on them, because at least the pain goes away and then they're good, right? This way it just stains them forever. So again, 7 to puberty, what happens to them is that they start asking a lot of questions again, because they want to make sure that the patterns that you're running is not a distorted pattern. They're waking up to the fact, it's like, are you sure? So if you have kids, ask yourself, is this the life that you wanted, or did you want to change? So why wouldn't you allow, or why wouldn't you tell your kids, hey, you know what? I messed up. This wasn't good for me. That my relationships weren't good. All this. So they just learn from it. Instead of going, yeah, honey, everything's fine. Everything's perfect. I've got everything under control, and you just follow my lead. And you're going, but Mom, Dad, you're going the wrong way. I can see that you're going the wrong way. It's like, no, it's okay, honey. Right? So just be really forthright, be truthful, and just imagine the childhood that you had. Actually go back to the childhood that you had, and you probably see that your kids are running pretty much similar patterns if you start to see it. And then you'll have a different, say, set of standards or disciplinary actions for that child. Children don't need discipline or abuse or anything like that. They need some strong direction. Right? They need discipline, but not from, like, getting beat up or curfew and all that stuff. So if you're from 6 to, say, 0, what happens is that you're very, very fluid, and you're awake. So what happens from 0 to 6 is that conventionally, say back in the old paradigm, what happens is that you would look at that, you would look at it, or the kids would look at it, and they would compare notes. It's like, okay, this is what my default status is supposed to be, my optimal high performance self. This is what my parents are teaching me, or this reality. So back in the day, it's like, well, do I believe in this or do I believe in this? And they go, well, my parents have been here longer, and if I don't believe in what my parents believe in, then I'm going to get beat up. So maybe it's a good idea for me to start adopting my parents' say roles or standards or behaviors or attitudes. Okay? But in this situation, in the new paradigm, people are going to start asking, Or kids are going to start asking, and they're going to actually see, it's like, okay, this is the way it should be running. Before there was kind of, gray area. It's like, should I be running this? This is kind of new to me. But although it's inherently, say, intuitive for them, what's going to happen for them is that they're going to start going down the default status and then comparing it to you and going, wow, mom and dad didn't read the handbook very well. And they're going to start pulling away from you at a young age, right? A very young age. They're going to see, they might love you and all that, but they're going, wow, mom, dad, they're really messed up. They can run their patterns. I'm going to run this default status right off the bat, right off the get-go, right? Have you ever, or when you were a little kid, you remember like your parents going, go hug grandma or grandfather, and you were scared as hell? It's like, honey, that's grandfather, go hug them. And they go, no way in hell. It's not about how they smell and stuff as they get old, nothing like that. It's just like they see the dark distortions, all those patterns. They don't want to be any part of it. But what do we do as parents? We just force them, and they go, I guess this is the way life should be, right? And they start going, oh, God, I guess I better suck it up. And then over time, you can, say, learn to like anything or get even addicted to it, right? So, and what's really cool, what's really, really interesting about what's happening now from what I'm seeing, so kids or, not kids, parents that are expecting, what happens is that, depending on the level, but parents that are expecting, like EI babies, what happens is that the parents, either one or both, they start to delete the patterns for their babies, which should have happened a long time ago. So the kid doesn't even come in with the distortion right off the bat. And that's where you want to be. So imagine if you didn't have all the distortions, the weaknesses, the illnesses, the health issues, all those things right off the get-go when you were born. Imagine how much further you would be. So imagine in just a few generations, you have a ton of kids with this new, say, reset. So that's this new paradigm that's coming out. That's how the old pattern ceases to exist with awakened kids. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting. Maybe someday soon we could actually do DNA tests. And I talk about DNA tests because many of you, whether online or here, do you notice that your facial structure changes, your body images changes, your body structure changes, and so on? It's because you're letting go of the distorted patterns of your parents and you're starting to resonate at your own frequency. Okay? So that's why you get rid of the diseases. You don't have to age like your parents did. You don't have to do any of that stuff like your parents did. Okay? So imagine that if you're a couple and you're pregnant. Imagine right off the bat, you're clean and good to go. So that's, the newborns. And then if you guys have questions. It is a deep talk, and so you guys might be a little distorted. So, you guys have questions? No? Yes?
Are these the kids that we've been calling the indigos and the rainbows for so long? Because they'd be about 20 now.
Are those the kids that are indigo and rainbow? No, there's like groups of kids like that, but from what I'm seeing, indigo children, rainbow children, they're really bright, but this reality messes them up. From what I've seen in the past, they're really bright. They come here, and it's like, whoa, where's the red carpet? Let's have some fun. And then they just like, whoa, wait a second. This is way different than what I saw up there. And that's why it messes them up. And that's why a lot of those kids are on like ADD, ADHD and all that stuff, because they can't handle what should be there and what is here. That's that transition. So the EI kids that are coming out, they're seeing, they're like, they're like, they own their stuff. They just own it. Right from, even inside their mom's belly, they shift their parents. It's like, I'm coming in, I'm going to check this place out and just like create it the way I need it to create. So their parents change, again, even in the belly. It's amazing. It's an amazing transformation. And then as they come through, their whole family starts to shift into the new reality. So that's the huge difference. Really good question, though.
On Sunday, when you have the free event for the kids, or babies, is it appropriate to bring up babies?
Yeah, 0 to
Okay.
18. Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good.
You're welcome. In fact, they really switch or change faster. Because like when I said like 0 to 6, they already have the default programming. So basically I lock them into the default programming so they don't have a choice to get distorted by the parents, if you think about it that way. I mean, they have a choice, but it's so obvious. It's like, pick this one, that kind of feel. And they go, oh yeah, I should pick this one no matter what my parents are doing. So, and they switch like that. Yes?
Hey, I have a 5-year-old,
Oh,
and
awesome.
his analytical intellect is, I don't even want to say delayed. He's in a state of play and innocence all the time. And I'm just curious about the mechanics around that with these new children coming in
So
that aren't as analytical and intellectual early on. Does that make sense? Am I wording this right?
yeah. So when I tap into your 5-year-old, the mechanics that we think are important in this reality aren't really that important. The schooling system, all that stuff, it's basically a way to downgrade your intelligence here. So he's actually adapted to a higher level, and some of the stuff that we're supposed to learn here, it doesn't make sense to him. Right? One of my younger daughters, is like that. It's like, why are we learning this? So they're actually like accelerated from what I'm seeing in your child. He's actually accelerated, so it's like child's play for him, what he's learning. And it's really menial for him. And it's actually insulting to a lot of kids, like what we teach. It really is. And it dumbs them down to that level, and then they forget the brilliance that they are. So.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a 30-year-old, and he's
addicted.
really pulling away from me. The more I feel the more spiritual I become. He's really pulling away.
Yeah, and I actually see, you said it was a he, right? I actually see him as a she. So that's one of the issues. Say you've enforced, you've basically anchored on him so much in the younger days, like trying to protect him or trying to like love him, I hate to say it, that he's lost his identity. Okay? So the more that you get, say, connected to your spiritual knowledge, which might be off-center from what I'm seeing, again, no offense, I'm just seeing that it's pulling you, and then you're forcing that spiritual connection to make you feel happy, which it doesn't, by the way. So no offense, but that's what I'm seeing in you. And then he's seeing that, and it's like, wow, mom's really like really into this thing that's really not working for her, and then later on she's going to try to push it on me. So basically he's just trying to separate his identity. So he's kind of awakening to that level. And he's really confused right now because, again, he has a female frequency that's wrapped around him, but he's masculine. He's a guy. Does that make sense to you? And that feminine frequency is you because of that overprotection.
Okay.
Okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there
You
hope?
didn't see that coming, did you? So
Next question.
yeah. Do you guys want to talk for 5 minutes? Okay. Awesome. Other questions? And then who's got the mic? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
This is my first time ever listening to you or being exposed to this content. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
I have been really drawn to doing my own self-healing the last few years. I'm 23.
Perfect.
And I've noticed looking at my parents now exactly what fears I soaked in like a sponge when I was younger. My mom was really young, and she just like fell in love with the first man who kind of like provided her with like that support. And I think looking back on that, like I kind of do that too, just needing that like love and approval from everybody. But I was wondering, I took in my stepdad's OCD, and I can just see that in him and how he just like, even when I was younger, like if I didn't do the dishes well enough, he would be like, you better do this dish again, like there's still a speck on it, that kind of thing. Or like, you didn't close your drawers in your dresser. And I notice I'm so hypercritical, and I'm sorry if you've covered this before and like there's ways to approach this, but what would you recommend?
Well, just reading you, and that's why you're here. You'll see more and more. And she's the perfect like young adult. They awaken to those patterns like really fast. With or without me, they start to awaken, and then they gravitate to, say, a source that goes, oh wow, that's what I'm seeing, because pretty much everything that I talked about, you're going, oh yeah, that's true. Does that make sense? At an innate level. By the way, what I'm telling you, it's nothing new. It's literally your default programming. It's been your default programming since the beginning of time. It's really nothing new. It's your complete higher, say, consciousness coming in. So that's why it resonates with you guys if you wake up. But young kids, they're waking up and going, yep, that's where I'm going. So for your, well, you talked about your OCD about the father. So when I see you, you've been actually the mother since you were about 2 or 3, from what I'm saying. So, because your mom, she has like 2, 3 personalities, from what I'm saying. So it's like, well, so as a young kid, you know, you're 2 or 3, and like I can tap into your mom, like I said, anybody, and it's like, so I'm looking at her and it's like, oh, she's got 3 personalities. But when you're 2 and 3 and you're trying to figure out this reality, what does that look like? It's like, where the hell is mom doing? It's like, why is she this person, right? And then she switches over to this person, and then she switches over to this person. Like as a 2 or 3-year-old, it's like, is that how this reality works? It must be, because the person that I trust for, you know, nourishment and everything is doing that. So it's like, well, I must do that too. And then like by the time you're 5, you start to get really, really unstable, because it's like, wait a second, why am I so unstable now? Well, it's like, because, well, that's what mom, so I'm going to disconnect because I'm not like disconnected. So I'm going to disconnect even more from this time and get even more unstable because mom's that way. Does that make sense to you? And then what do? You get disconnected. By the time you're 10, you're going, wait a second. Something like clicked in you at 10 or 11. You got to, like, you woke up or something like that, which is really good, right before puberty. And it's like, wait a second. Mom's not really all here. I shouldn't be following her. Because every time I've followed her, I've fallen into the ditch. I haven't been on the straight road. So you've pulled, again, really awakened by the time you were 10, 11. I don't know, we don't have to discuss what happened. Something did happen to, like, really see what happened in that time frame. Does that make sense? So you've done a great job stabilizing yourself. And that's what I was talking about. That age frame, they start to see, it's like, damn, there's no way in hell I'm going to go into, you know, the swamp that my parents did. So you pulled out, but then, so from 10 to wherever you are, 23, you've done your own internal research. You've kind of hid away from everybody. You've been, say, self-supportive, because you know anything that's out there is all conducive about bringing you back into, say, understanding your mom's or dad's pattern. Does that make sense to you? So it's like, no, I don't believe in that shit, so I'm going to start developing my own stuff. And again, I give you a lot of credit. Holy shit, that's really powerful. Although you might look unstable or feel uncomfortable because you're very different, you're not alone. There's many people around, the EI family. There's thousands throughout the whole world that actually that actually are feeling like you. In fact, there's a lot of younger kids coming through. Okay, so that's where you are. So now that you own this space, what I can help you with, and you're really bright, what I can help you with is that you start to like get the methods, get the concepts, and this is like the new world order. So by the time she's like 25, 26, she's just like a strong, what I call EI woman, And that means that she doesn't run any manly frequencies. Like most successful women, in the business world or otherwise, again, you name me any successful woman, chances are 100% they're running a masculine frequency to be successful. Even the most sensual, say, singers, well, I wouldn't say that. They're running abusive patterns. So either you're really, say, successful and manly, or you're really, say, abused in your talents, and you're really pretty and feminine. So neither one is very, say, beneficial for women. But again, you're going to be just a solid woman by the time you're 25, 26, 27. And you're just going to be owning it. Unfortunately, what you've gone through, you might think you're an outcast, and then people around you go, you know what? You need some medication. You need to go to a psychologist or a therapist or something like that. You're actually the only sane one around yourself. Right? But in comparison, you would look unstable. Does that make sense? So as you awaken, you get to see that consciousness, it's not as stable as we think. So your stability starts to come inward rather than outward. Okay? And with that, I want to introduce my daughter and then her friend. They started actually a consciousness movement on their own because my daughter has changed, say, so dramatically. Briefly, she's transformed so much. Yeah, can we have the mic? And then, Emmy, you can have my mic so you can listen in, so the audience can listen in, and then you can give that mic to her. So anyway, she transformed so dramatically as a young kid. Again, she started to look at her mom's patterns. She started to look at my patterns. Again, all my kids, if you see my kids, like her, she's just like right on. Does that make sense to you? They're just like solid kids. And if you listen to her talk, and she does a lot of YouTube videos and so on, she doesn't look like an 18-year-old. She doesn't sound like an 18-year-old. She's really she just cuts through the crap. Okay? So imagine kids like this populating the world. They're not going to take any bullshit, especially if you're beautiful. They're not going to take any bullshit or abuse from men, like Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. It's like, I don't need you. I can do this on my own. That's where the whole revolution is going to be about. So I'm going to just hand the mic for about 10 minutes to them.
Is this a microphone?
Yeah, both of them. Just do, I guess.
We can just try this out.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that's fine.
Okay.
Because she has to talk to
So, hello everybody, I'm Emmy Sajady,
And I'm Ileana Howe.
and we recently started a brand called Fail the Ordinary with a vision to transform the despondent youth of today into the brilliant creatives of tomorrow. I know that when I was growing up in middle school and through high school, I just felt so lost. I was so anxious and insecure, and I had no idea how to fill that emptiness in my chest, and I was looking I read all the self-help books I could read. I watched all these YouTube videos. I watched all these articles. I was looking on Instagram and seeing all these people that seemed happy, and I was like, okay, I'll do that, but I just nothing would fill that void. I still felt completely lost. I had no idea how to find who I was and find my purpose, and again, I was incredibly insecure, so I was never drawn to my dad's work. I was worried about how other people would think of it, and in
my own kids. Can you imagine that?
My freshman year, I was like, this can't get any worse. So I switched from public school to online school, and I still felt the same. I was just alone, and I was forced to face all my shortcomings and all my flaws, and I really think it helped push me forward on my journey. And around that same time, I started traveling and working with my dad, and I started paying more and more attention to what he was saying. And as I paid more attention, it started to make so much more sense to me. And I was like, okay, you know what?
I can't feel any worse. I can't feel any more empty or unfulfilled. So I'm going to do his 21 days meditation for 3 months, and I'll just see how I feel at the end of it. And those 3 months were some of the hardest 3 months of detox that I've ever been through, but it was completely and utterly worth it. I looked back at who I was, and I still had my insecurities, but they impacted me so much less, and I didn't think I was anything like my dad. I didn't think I had abilities, and I started to come into those. During those 3 months, I got a taste of what my true self felt like, being free from all those insecurities and distortions and patterns, and it was so amazing. Nothing had ever worked for me before. I knew what I should do to be better. I knew what patterns that I needed to get rid of, procrastinating, not waking up on time, just sleeping, just being lazy, not wanting to do anything. And I'd change for a week through other things, but I'd always cycle back to those old patterns, and this was finally something that was real and it worked. And that was about a year ago, and just since then I've grown exponentially. It's insane. I've really come into myself and who I am and my path, and I know that I was meant to do this. I'm incredibly excited for this brand to be an icon for strong youth. I want to show people that life doesn't need to be like this, that you don't need to be stuck in everybody else's patterns and distortions. You don't need to cycle through this. You don't need to feel so empty and unfulfilled. You can create your own life. You can create your own reality. You can create what you want to create.
Yeah, and so I come from a similar background, but my problem was that I was always helping other people besides myself.
This is for Yeah, you can just turn that. Here. You could.
So I started noticing that ever since I was young, I was always the one to help everyone else but myself. I was always putting myself in that position of helping others. And as I grew up, as I started growing up, I started having stronger and stronger patterns of associating myself with helping others and losing myself. And I started noticing that time came, I wanted a boyfriend. I started having these boyfriends, abusive relationships, toxic relationships. And the next boyfriend was even worse. And the one after that was just absolute worse. And I was like, I don't want this. I know I want to help people in my life, but I don't want to be the one that's being put down every single time I'm helping others, right? I don't think any of you would want that either. And there's a lot of us here today that have gone through that, and some of us probably still. And so I noticed that it all starts when we're young. We start creating these patterns ever since we're a kid. We're looking at our families, we're looking at our friends, we're looking at everyone in our lives and taking in those patterns and turning them into our own. And it just wasn't going in the direction that I wanted it to. So for me, this is a huge change in my life because I caught this pattern. I was like, how can I help people but help myself at the same time? So with this brand, we're just super excited because we're really trying to reach out to as many people as we can. And just recently, like this past week, I lost one of a really good friends of mine to suicide. He was on Facebook Live and he committed suicide. Like, things like this happen because of distortions and because of toxic patterns. Like, we need to wake up. What are we doing? We need to help the youth, and we need to change these patterns. Let's create a healthy environment for ourselves and for the generations to come.
I just want to thank you guys so much for your time and my dad for giving us this opportunity, and we are incredibly excited to be the guide for the strong youth so people can finally find something online that is pure and real and that they can really connect to and that will actually help them. Because, you know, we're not like any other brands. We have tangible results, and Eliana here is a perfect example of that. She has changed her life so much in just the month that she's been doing the meditation. It's crazy, and I'm so excited, and we are going to be as authentic and real as possible on our social media channels. We encourage, the youth or just anyone to reach out to us with questions or topics that you want us to speak on. Our Instagram is @FTheOrdinary. Give us a follow. Go look at our YouTube channel. It's Fail the Ordinary. And you can find that, yes.
Can you go slower for us older?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Just say it slowly so we can get that.
Of course. So our Instagram is FTheOrdinary, FTheOrdinary, and then our Instagram or our YouTube is Fail the Ordinary, and we encourage you guys to go follow us on our Instagram, to like and subscribe, to watch our videos. We're going to be putting out a lot more content soon, and we are really excited. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Both of them really powerhouses at their age, right? So Emmy's obviously been doing this for a long time. I just want to share some facts on like Ileana. She's actually the case study for F the Ordinary. So what they're going to do is, because she's new, she's only been, I saw her, I don't know, maybe a month ago. Is that about it? About a month ago? She was here, she went up, she was upstairs. Somebody invited her, or somebody told her, you should come see this guy, because very distorted, abusive relationships, patterns, things like that. Her mother, say not the greatest, not the most complete, or the most stable. Within I didn't even work on her I just worked on her for like a couple minutes, right? And then I sent her the 21 days and go, hey, check this out. By the way, I do that to a lot of kids because my kids, they bring home, I don't know how many kids that are lost. So, you just keep giving them the 21 days because these kids are waking up and they're going, you know what, my parents aren't doing it for me. My parents are alcoholic. They beat me up. Case of suicides, a lot higher. And for many, like I was talking between puberty and that age, gosh, they don't know what the hell to do. They can't go to their parents' patterns because there's no way in hell they're going to go there. And then they're too afraid to let go, right, of what they know, because if they do, there's nothing to like step onto. So they do the 21 days, they get really connected, and I don't know how many kids' lives I've saved. I think over about almost say 24 just for like random friends that my son's not here, but her twin that brings over. It's just amazing, and because they don't want to commit suicide, they don't want to disconnect, but they don't know what else to do, right? And it's not even a psychological problem, unfortunately. So they get on drugs, and then it messes up even more. It's a time and space disconnect. They just don't realize who they are. So it's like short-circuiting your phone. Does that make sense? Your programs wouldn't run. That's the way they feel, so they have to disconnect or unplug, unfortunately. It doesn't help them on the other side. So over the time, especially the last, say about 6 months or so, Emmy really has shifted. Before she was, say, pushing, and this is my own kid, by the way. I live and breathe. I'm not any different in front of you, or I'm not, I'm the same at home as well. Most people who speak, they're very different. They have their facade here, and then they're very different on the back end. You see what I am. I'm like this all the time. But anyway, even with that, Emmy's like just pushing because it's not me. She doesn't have a golden ticket. She's just like everybody else. Although she might have some like benefits and so on being my kid, because she's around me more, so she learns. But she had to go through the same space of detox, letting go of her mother's patterns, letting go of the father patterns, because I still had issues, things like that. I might have cleaned it up, but then she has to kind of go through the same process as well and go, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? And go, no, no, no. So something really awoke in her, and this is where she really woke up. And then for Ileana, again, getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and then it's like that 2 or 3 minute session just like woke her up, and it's like, holy shit, there's just another solution out there that I could be running. There's actually another choice that we have. I don't have to fall in to my mom's patterns or father's patterns. There's another choice. So like less than a month, she's like, wow, this stuff really works, because she's more solid and stable than ever. Okay? So she's going to be like a case study where she's going to go through from where she is, and then it's really going to be cool to say, watch her blossom. Okay? So thank you so much, guys. Very nice job. Other questions? We've got about like half an hour. We can do a meditation, but we're going to do the 21-day meditation, so we got like about half an hour. Yes?
When I was like in 5th grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and like since then, I've been taking medication like daily for it. And I was just wondering, like, how has that affected me?
Say that again. So when you were
And when I was in like 5th grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I've been taking medication daily since then. And I just wonder how that's like affected me.
Yeah. How are you feeling now?
Are
you still
now or?
Huh?
Like now is in sitting here right now.
Yeah. Like, are you still taking the meds?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Actually, from what I'm seeing, you've used the meds for the past, what is it, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7, 8, 9 months as a crutch. From what I'm seeing, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I can't tell you to get off your meds. But, you know, you need to say let go of that space or like slowly drop down. And you'll see that you're stable on your own. It's really time to let go. And it's time for your mother to let go as well. And then are you adopted or
No.
Okay. So the father comes from your father, a heritage of, I don't know, like magic, stuff like that. You know, like magic, voodoo, those kind of patterns. Does that make sense to you? Okay. I don't know what culture or pattern, but you're releasing that as well. So it's not just parental type stuff, but it's about, say, the cultural stuff that I see in you. That's why I asked. So a lot of heavy religion, so to speak, if you want to call it religion. I call it more as like a cloud over that side of the family. Does that make sense to you? So you start to leave that, and you're really, really strong enough. So one, your mother starts to say separate and create her own, say, identity, because, well, and I'm just telling you what I see. You know, if you become more independent and start to let him just be him, you'll start to see that he'll fail and fall, and then that's how he learns to stabilize his own self. Does that make sense to you? But then what do you do with your life if he's not having the issues that he's having? Because then you'd get lost and distorted. So as you get lost and distorted, it's a great opportunity for you to, say, blossom into your own life situations. Does that make sense to you? That's literally what's holding you back. It's a cycle of not being able to let go. And then he has a support structure. Well, who wants to let go of a support structure? Right? It's really hard unless you take it out from underneath you. So even talking about this, and again, just bringing that out in the open, you'll see how you support each other with your inadequacies, and then it's like, holy shit, I'm actually doing that to my kid. Okay? And then you'll start to peel away. So, and then the father patterns won't affect you as much as well, because you break away completely. But you got to take stuff on your own. Even if your mom doesn't do it, say, Mom, I'm doing this on my own. I force my kids to, cook and clean and do all their stuff on themselves. Not because I can or I'm lazy or anything, because it's about efficiency. So right now, you're old enough to do your own laundry, do your own stuff, not wait for mom to tell you what to do, or it's time to go to bed, not maybe go to bed, or time to do schooling and all that stuff. You should be doing that shit on your own, dude. Just take that responsibility, man. Right? So, again, there's no excuses. There literally is. How old are you?
17.
Yeah, there's no excuses. If you were my kid, in about a week, you'd be just straight. Seriously, because I would not take it. You'd be on your own. You'd be independent. Simple as that. Okay? So that's the kind of discipline parents need. Not like, you need to go to bed on time, you need to do this, you need to take your medications, they don't need that stuff. They just need you to be, say, disconnected from them and then on their own, stable. My young girls start doing stuff on their own. Right? And again, it's not out of disrespect or anything, it's just because they need to stay on their own. It's wrong. You're not helping your kids any. So, other questions? Now nobody wants to speak up.
I have a question. I have one more question.
Yes.
Since what you told me is really resonating with me, you didn't give me a solution. You said that I was unhappy, which I am, and spiritually I'm searching for that happiness. I'd like to have a solution from you, or something that I can do to work on it.
Yeah, that's why you're here. So over time, and again, as I speak to you, just working on you as well, so you start to, and that's why, that's what I was telling you earlier. Say you have a conscious impact of what I say, and it's like, no, I don't agree with you, blah, blah, blah. And then deep inside, it starts going, wait a second, that your default status of who you are starts going, hey, wait a second, this is what I felt like when I was a kid. It's like it felt true to me. And that's what, so you're actually moving really fast. It didn't take that long, maybe a half an hour from what I'm seeing, for you to get to that realization. It's like, you know what, you're 5 minutes? Well, that's even better. So, okay, 5 minutes, it's like, well, wow, it's like you're right. So you're really open, because you really don't care about, well, it's this or that. You just want to say, be free. Does that make sense to you? And that's why you're here. So just acknowledging that, you really shift. So I would suggest doing the podcast. Just listen to the podcast, the mechanics of what EI is. Again, it's not a religion or spiritual movement or anything like that. It just feels spiritually connected because you get to find yourself. Okay, it's a programming method. And then, whatever you've learned, most of the stuff that you abide by is your mom or your grandmother or your aunt. It's not even your stuff. Does that make sense? You think that's what's going to get you going, but look at, is it your aunt, or your mom might not feel like your mom?
My mom.
Okay, your mom doesn't feel like your mom.
She wasn't a mom.
Okay, that's what yeah. So it's kind of like a aunt that's out there, whatever. So you've like adopted that pattern, although it didn't work for her. But unknowingly, if you look, even after tonight, you're going, wow, I'm running this pattern, and you're just like, I got to get out of here. And then that's where people like you just like shift really fast. So you're right on track. Okay.
So do you think that thoughts become things to manifest, and how is that going to change in the new paradigm?
Sure. Again, a really good time-bound question. So at the level that we're at, most of the time we go thoughts are things, but most individuals, thoughts are not things. Thoughts are just random thoughts that are spewed out by your underlying program. Does that make sense? So your thoughts are already done. So the programs that create you are just like, it's an after effect basically. So thoughts already have become solidified or things. So basically most people at the level that they're at, their thoughts are basically a reflection of the patterns that you're running. Okay? In the new paradigm, when you think of something, it comes in. Many of you who are awakened, do you notice that when you start to think of something? So this is why you really have to be astute. Otherwise, you think of something and you focus on it, and it's like, oh shit, I just created that. So this is the new paradigm, because in the future, when things move fast like this, does that make sense? You think of something and it's like, poof, it creates. Just like it does in spirit level. And it's really cool, that's where you want to be. So it's just a process. And if you do the 21 days or even the 21-day accelerated that we're doing, you get to the point that when you, again, you create almost, for the most part, almost pretty soon thereafter or instantly. So, and I teach you how to go through that process so you don't create all the stuff that you're thinking. So, really a good question. And yeah. What question online? I dropped? Is that what you said? I dropped? Okay, just hold on one second. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. Yeah, I'll do it through the half hour, okay? So, yeah. 1 second, guys. We're going to do the VIP a little different this time around. I'm going to have you come stand in a circle, and then I'll just work on you more concentrated. Okay? So, are we good now? Oh, awesome, thanks. Other questions? Hi.
Hi. I'm really glad that you're bringing this up with the children. When I first started working with you a little over 2 years ago, it was mostly because I was having just a really difficult relationship with my oldest child. I have 4, and he was going through suicidal, tendencies, and he had been through drug addiction and all of this. And I was really trying to do what I could to help him, but I was beginning to see where I was part of the issue. So,
yep.
Then I started really working with you more, and things did kind of. He was able to more stand on his own, right after that.
Perfect.
But all of my kids you worked on my 18-year-old a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Sam. And he's my youngest. So now that I'm doing this work, and I can see some of the patterns that my kids are running that are coming back at me.
Yeah.
I ask myself a lot, like, what's my role? Like, what's my responsibility? What is there for me to do without being too imposing or pressuring or whatever? I mean, that's really just kind of my question, is what is the role of a parent when my children are that age? And I care about them.
Yeah. Again, another really good, deep question. So your role as a parent is to be not to care about your kids so much. This is counterintuitive, but worry about being the best possible you that you can be. Does that make sense to you? Gary, can you help out? Thanks. Yeah. So when you start to become your best possible self, and many of you who are seeing this, when you start to really clean up, no matter how much work that you've done on your spouse or your kids and all that, but you realize when you work on yourself, your kids and your spouse start to clean up automatically. They naturally change, especially if they're from, say, 15, 16 and younger. They get to see the patterns that mom or dad is running, and then they get to compare notes, and then go, okay, wow, the person's doing EI is more congruent, more factual compared to what I know should be right, and then they start to gravitate towards that parent because it creates stability. Everybody was looking for stability. So that's, but how old is your son?
Well, my oldest, he's going to be 28 next week. And then my second son is 20.
Yeah.
And he started to see the patterns that I was running, and he didn't want them, right, in his teens. And he's someone that I'm actually quite concerned about, because he has a hard time even connecting with me. I feel like he's out of time. I'm always wanting to ask you to work on him. But.
Yep. So your youngest, again, he sees all the patterns, and then sometimes they don't want to have anything to do with you, and that's a good thing. So you let them in that space, don't hound them, because they're not getting away from you. They're getting away, especially if I've worked on them, or they're doing EI themselves. They're just wanting to get away from the patterns that you're running. And as they clear that pattern, they get to actually see you for who you really are, because they get to go, oh, this is the pattern that I had, and that's not my real mom in your case. Does that make sense? That's just a rendition of who my mom thinks she is. So then you get connected stronger, because then they become like an icon. So in your family, your 18-year-old kind of jumps up ahead of you, although he might not be doing anything, but through you, he's really keen. And then it's like you help him go up, and then you go, oh, he's over here. that's a great idea, and then they just like boom, boom, and you help each, and it gets really a close bond. Your older son, something happened to him at 18, 19, I just kind of put him on a side spin, and he's trying to recover ever since then. So for 10 years of basically in a cyclone, a downward cycle, downward. So he's like finally getting to the point, it's like, whoa, wait a second, I'm destabilized. So he's trying to find his stability. At least now he's like, well, I'm destabilized. Does that make sense to you? So he gets to become more stable as he realizes he's unstable. Yeah. Okay. And then he gets off the whatever.
He what?
He gets off, did you say he was on drugs or abuse pattern?
When he was younger, he was, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need that stuff. So he was using that to stabilize yourself. Because, well, you weren't stable, and neither was the father. So a lot of times when kids get on drugs and stuff, it's not that they're trying to be bad kids. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some kids just like want to experiment with everything just to see what's out there and play around with it. And they go, okay, I tried drugs, whatever. It was not that grand. I'm out of it. Right? So they're experimentals. A lot of the other kids, they just don't know where to go. So that drug for the time being like disconnects them from time and space, and then they get into those higher realities where they actually see who they are for the first time. It's like, oh God, I know there's some kind of stability out there, but unfortunately it's like it's linked to the drugs. So they take more and more and more drugs to feel stable, then after a while it doesn't make them feel stable. It has the opposite effect. So that's why I don't condone drugs, but it's not a bad idea if you're really off and you do it properly, or maybe a meditation of mind behind and you do drugs. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but some of you might go. Some of you might have used drugs in college days and stuff like that. It might be kind of a benefit to go back to it with controlled conditions. You didn't hear that from me though. It just ramps you up. I mean, if you're in that psyche, might as well take advantage of it. Right? Hi.
Hi. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about when you're focusing on the breastbone. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned that before as being something that is helping you if you are dealing with control sources or trying to stay stable within that environment.
Yeah.
Does it also function to bring you into the present moment and connect you to who you are more? And is that what you could teach your kids to do if they have a tendency to go out of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can use any part of your body, okay? By the way, I just use this space because when, and the reason why I use this, because when you focus in on your breastplate or your identity, when you think of your identity, where do you go? It's like right here. Does that make sense? That is you. So when you're focusing in on it, and I'm guiding you through the meta healings, well, what happens is that you start to see your real identity compared to the fake identity or the facade that you're running. So that's the deeper reason why. Okay? So, but on the flip side, you can focus any part, your collarbone, the tip of your nose, I don't know, wherever, and then it'll always bring you back to your natural self. Does that make sense? But a lot of people carry their weight here, their garbage here, their identity here. That's why. So that's why I said, or their groin area. So, okay. So I like the details on that because if you've ever noticed, there's no set structure in what I teach in exponential intelligence. You don't have to do this, you don't have to do mantras. The only mantra I have is literally, how do I connect to pure source even stronger? There's no dogmas, there's no special clothing that you have to wear, there's no tradition, there's no time functions on when you have to do whatever you have to do to connect. It's just you. Because those are all, say, physical, say, dictums on what you have to do to connect, and it doesn't really work. Because if you have to do something physical, you'll never connect. You're always going to try to connect. That's why religion and spirituality, it's kind of gotten distorted, and it's way different than a Jesus, a Buddha, Muhammad. They were just being, and that's what I'm teaching you. So you don't have to do anything, but just be. And as you are, then whatever works for you starts to come in. that make sense? So then it's your own, say, tradition or custom on how you connect. And that's the beautiful thing, because it's all about giving you the freedom or access. You don't have to do anything. But again, even Jesus said there's only one way to be ascended, or whatever he said, connect. That's not through him, but through awakening. Basically, how do you connect to pure source even stronger? It's like, how the hell do I connect to my higher self? Well, not the hell part, but anyway. So, other questions?
As a career, I work with children who are abused and neglected, and I just want to know if there's more that I can do in that career to help these children, because I'm the first one to respond to these kids who have been abused and neglected, and if there's something that I can do in my power to help them.
Yeah. You can connect with my daughter and anchor on them, okay, especially the older kids, because it'll give them a community of strong kids, okay, that they can chat with. And do you know why some individuals become psychologists, or why you want to help abused kids? Because you were not, say, treated well when you were young. So, and you saw basically what she did. If you don't mind me reading you, what the hell, we'll just read you anyway. It's really beautiful. So she, as a young child, she sees how we're supposed to run the patterns. She just sees it. She never forgot how we were supposed to actually be. That kind, loving, say, ultimate self, that grandest self. She's never lost track of that. She never ever did. But then it's like, wait a second, mom and dad's running these abuse patterns, and I'm getting abused or distorted and all that stuff, but I'm still running this. So, it's a loving atmosphere. It's like, and then, like she would create excuses. Mom had a bad day, mom did this, dad did this. It's like, well, it's not their fault. Well, it's their patterns. I'm not saying it's their fault. So basically, it's like, when I grow up, I want to make sure my other kids aren't going to do this, and then I want to heal myself. That's why most psychologists become psychologists. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but they really want to heal themselves. So that's what you're really asking. We offer free meta healings, things like that, for kids that you can play in the background for them. So get a hold of our office. Are they smaller kids from what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and again, what you want to do, do they come in and see you?
No, I usually go to the home.
Okay. So in your purse, just play any of the 21 days or whatever that we, send you, okay? And you should do the 21-day meta healings, the foundational ones, but just play it in your purse, just very low whenever you go into a session like that. And over time, you'll see that kid changes readily, okay? And then you start to shift as well, and you can let go. And then when you become stronger, and again, no offense on what you're doing, but since you've come from a hurt space that you didn't, say, recover from, right? Basically, you're helping them by going, okay, don't do this, 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 and this, but you're wrapping that distorted pattern around them, and you're going, watch out for this. But when they watch out for it, they start. So it does help them. It makes them feel secure, but it doesn't make them strong. They always end up being victim-type patterns. And victims, usually, it's like learning how to cope with the abuse that still runs. Does that make sense? So when you start to adapt and change and get really strong, it's like, hey, let me show you how, I turn, say, victim mentality, or you kind of run an underdog pattern too. Underdogs are always victims that keep getting up and get abused. They never conquer the bad person. Does that make sense? So you don't want to do that either. You want to be that, say, gladiator that comes in. It's like, hey, this is the way to be nice, and I own my space. When you come in from that standpoint, those kids look at you and go, damn, she looks like Superwoman to me, because you really will feel that presence. Your healing is basically just out of pure love, just straight love for those kids. That's what really heals you. Nothing about what you teach them or anything like that. Okay? So, very beautiful. Okay, get a hold of my office and I'll hook you up.
My dad was always very loving and supportive, but he also had a lot of advice on wanting me to live a traditional life. Mm-hmm. And I felt a strong urge to go my own way, which I'm very happy I did. But at the time, when I was a young man, I said, well, Dad, you don't look that happy to me. Why should I follow your advice?
That's
And
true.
he had such a hurt look on his face that I've carried this guilt with me forever. And I try and let it go, and but it's still there.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how you do it gracefully. Because at some point you have to ignore what he's saying and go your own way.
Right. That's very emotional felt. Again, you're always emotional based. Well, actually, you're getting to the point where you're burying those patterns, not just that statement, but the identity of how you age. Because if you have, say, such guilt patterns, do you see how that works, guys? Now that you understand how just like patterns work, right? Basically, it's like, okay, yeah, it's not working for me, but I feel really hurt because you're not taking the recipe that I baked for you all my life and giving it to you. Basically, that's what he's saying. And you don't like the taste or anything, but I'm going to force it down your throat, literally. So although he was very, say, laxed about things, deep inside, he's very like insecure on the deep end. So anyway, kind of like passive type, aggressive type patterns. No offense. So you've carried that guilt, but now, from what I'm seeing, especially like after today, you're going, you know what? I just need to be me. So your identity, your facial structure, your how you age, all that starts to really shift for you. Okay? Yeah. And that's why it's coming up for you, by the way. Yes?
I'm going through a transition where I was living with my youngest daughter, and we have gone our own ways since May, and we're just starting to reconnect, and I'm just wondering if I'm still trying to overmother her.
No. Actually, you're reconnecting to see how much progress you've made, from what I'm seeing. And then you get to see the patterns in you that you're running, that she's still running. And then it's like, okay, I'm still running those patterns, but you're, say, grown up enough not to be like his father and be hurt by it. It's like, okay, I need to disconnect from those patterns. And at that level, when you're really honest with yourself and you've, say, grown emotionally, you don't get hurt or anything like that. You're just like, oh, I'm running these crappy patterns, let's just disconnect them. So there's no like holding on to your pain, or what do they call that? The red badge of courage, right? Where you just hold on to your guilt, your war wounds and all that. I think in the past you used to probably run that pattern. That's why I'm telling you that. Now you're just looking at it objectively. It's okay, that's got to go. And you see that in you. It's like, that shit's got to go. And then the next day, it's gone. That's where you are. Does that make sense? And then when she sees, like when you, and that's the way parenting should be. And we should have done it a long time ago. But even now with your daughter and you clean up. She is awake enough, whether she does anything, I don't know if I work on her through you or whatever. But anyway, she's changed through that. So when you're awake, it automatically sends an update to her. Literally, it's like, hey, I disconnected these patterns. And then she gets a choice. It's like, yeah, I want to take that new version of mom. And then she deletes it too. It's really that fast. So you work, in tandem. And you'll see, and that's, when that happens, the bond between a parent and a child, it's amazing. And that's the way it really should be. It's just so amazing, that strength between the two of you, because it's just you and them. Does that make sense? And there's no distortions or guilt feeling or anything in between you. It's just like pure. And then you get to see what a parent should really be about. Have you ever seen those mothers that they complain about taking their kids to practice this and the soccer practice this and that and that? It's like a freaking burden to them, It's like, well, why the hell did you have kids in the first place? That was my speech the last week, and a lot of people didn't like that. So here I am again, preaching the same thing. But again, why would kids feel important if you're like complaining and taking them to this and this? First of all, well, don't set them up or sign them up from all the activities that you want to get rid of them for, so they don't spend time with you and harass you. You know what I mean? That's what most parents do, right? They keep them busy, and now you're complaining that they're so damn busy that I don't even have a life of my own anymore. So that thought process for most parents is really messed up. And kids see that, but when they see that you're not, you're complaining, you're not actually having fun. For me, I take my girls, I'm separated or divorced, I have a great time with them. We have a grand time just driving to school, driving to cheer or trampoline. In fact, I joined the class in trampoline. So at my age, I'm like doing flips and shit like that. It's so fun. And they're really getting into it because, and I call my daughter Coach G, Coach Grace, and she just loves it because she's coaching me. And it's the coolest thing in her face because it's like, okay, Dad, you got to do it this way. Stand up more, when you're bouncing and stuff. And I go, okay. So she gets to teach me a lot because over time, I've learned so much from my kids. It's amazing. And parents don't do that. They just ignore their kids. But if you start to really pay attention to your kids, there's a wealth of information that you're missing. Basically, it's the younger version of you, undistorted. So why would you throw away your second chance of growing up again, right? And then if you have more kids, like I have 6, so I had 6 chances to regrow, and then regrow, and then regrow. So, and that's how I stay young. So I'm 60 years old, well, 59, 60. Yeah, so, yes.
I just...
sorry.
Sorry. I've got 4 kids.
Awesome.
Yeah. In the divorce process right now, which is extremely adversarial, she promised me she'd destroy me if I left, and so she's brought someone like yourself in, and there's all this victimization and focus on false reality. Long story short, I haven't seen them for 4 months recently because of this reality which is being projected, which is entirely flawed. And I'm having a very difficult time holding my life together and figuring out how to move forward with it all. And I don't really have any I don't know if there's any insight you have, I'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah, as I read you, and that's what I was getting rid of. You're finally getting awakened. So although it's your wife did X, Y, and Z, well, what are the patterns in you that were running to accommodate your wife to do X, Y, and Z to you? Does that make sense?
That's why
I went through the same process.
Because I realized I was part and parcel in it, and I needed to be taking responsibility for my.
Yeah, you're a super nice guy, basically that. Kind of like the white knight in shining armor that women look for, and then they abuse the hell out of people like that, and then it's like, damn, they're not providing me that support. That, you know what I mean? You're not the white knight in shining armor anymore, because they're not finding themselves. That's why women do that. They find that white knight, and then after a while, it's like, I'm not finding themselves. This guy's a jerk, and then they start abusing them. It's like, why aren't you protecting me or saving me or doing whatever to me? So I ran that same pattern. I felt guilty and like abused and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, she's my best coach ever, my wife at the time. Again, we just didn't connect. So anything that she said, like to me, abuse pattern, whatever, it's like I took it as a coach. It's like, okay, coach, if it's true, I'm going to work on it and get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. If it's not true, it's like, well, that's her problem. Right? Because obviously it's not all you or all them. And that's how I became really like strong, confident, or like an EI type man. And then, I attracted the woman of my dreams, right? We just attracted to a higher level consciousness, and that's how you really like shift and transform. So that's what you're going through. So instead of being abused, because that's your pattern, take it as a coach. It's like, hey, and that's a tough coach. So you should learn really fast. Okay?
I always said she's my best teacher. I've learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah, no offense. You got to stand up and man up, man. Really, you got to man up. Simple as that. So, we got to do the 21 days. So for the VIPs, do you guys want to come up here and kind of create like a elliptical circle here? And then I'll just work on you at a really deep layer. So we've got a lot of people online. And some of you might not be ready for the accelerated. Well, it is what it is. So basically, it's just a little more intense detox or transformation. That's what you want anyway, right? So it's more intensity for you if you're not familiar with it. And if you are, it's a great time for you to get really, say, pushed into those higher, say, opportunities of awakening. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath in, noticing where you are, the space around you, noticing you in your space. And again, just noticing your surroundings, whether you're here, notice that it's a little muggy or a lot muggy, it's kind of hot here. If you're at home, if that's different, notice the difference. And whether I work on, say, one individual or the group while you're here physically or on line 1, line 2, line whatever, how many ever lines we have, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not working on you at a physical level. I'm not working on you on your physical identity, your mental identity, or anything like that. I'm working at your source code. Okay? So as we take a deep breath in again, nice strong deep breath in, inhaling through the nose, holding that breath, and releasing slowly, controlled, through the mouth. Again, taking control of your breath. It's one of the simplest things to control. If you can't control your breath, especially if you're guided and can't control it, then you're going to have a hard time controlling your life. It's really that simple. And if you don't control your life, something or someone else will. You can't stay empty. So, strong breath in again. Connecting to the mastermind, as I call it. Again, the mastermind allows us to go further, faster in the accelerated, whether you're in the accelerated or not. It's a very different mastermind. It's potent, it's faster. Normal masterminds, again, a collection of minds. It always creates itself, right? Football games, whatever, there's a consciousness that takes over. It's accumulation, again, or a rendition of one of the group. In this case, it's not like, say, being on a bus that you're all together and you get off anytime you want. This is like being in an airplane. You can't get off. You're stuck in that consciousness and you shift. Whether you like it or not, you shift. Right? Not on your time. Mastermind's time. Oh, do you want to hold here? Wonderful breath in again. You can sit if you'd like. It might be better for you. Yeah, sit. Yeah, there you go. Again, strong deep breath in, asking ourselves, well, how do I connect to pure source even stronger? Again, how do I become my best possible self? Don't even worry about pure source or a God source or higher self or whatever. How can you just be your best possible self? Okay, let's just do it that way. And then just notice your spine. Notice what supports you, whether you're sitting or standing or lying down, the floor for the accelerated, your pedestal, the base, and taking that breath in from the core of the earth. If you're new, again, just breathing in from the core of the earth. Imagine that you're breathing in those fresh, strong frequencies of Mother Nature, if you will. Okay? Just to make it easy. Breathing it in, pulling it in. And if you notice, Mother Nature is always consistent. It's always in time. But pulling it in, becoming aware of your internals. So your blood, your bone structure, your organs, your tissues, your nervous system, all the details. And even for the accelerated, health issues, decay, old age. Are there other ways of aging? Or is it just your hereditary patterns, the way your parents aged? Can we change that? So that's what many of us in the accelerator are actually thinking. It's like, hey, I don't have to age like my parents did. Neither do you. Who said you had to? And that's the theme for tonight. Who created the structure of you? And why do you have to live the way you do? There's 7 billion people. Most of them run similar patterns. Some might be happier, sadder, some might be more successful. But again, most of them run similar patterns. They feel incomplete, that they feel that disconnect on the inside. Do you have to run that way? No. So in this session, again, as we take a deep breath in, again, from the core of the earth, nice, strong, deep breath in, just hold it. And just, like I said, just hold it. And then whenever you're ready, exhale. Not on my call, but whenever you're ready. Exhale slowly. Okay, if you paid attention, even if you've done this before, do you see you get back control? Just really fast. Simplest things that you bypass or ignore are the ones that are going to get you connected to your, say, spiritual, your higher self, that completeness that you're looking for in money, in relationships, in religion, in spirituality. Your spirit just wants to acknowledge that you feel it. Just wants to be a part of you. And then you want to be a part of it, but then you ignore it by not acknowledging your body. As we take that deep breath in again, just noticing your solar plex, and inhaling through the nose, and just holding it until you're ready to exhale. Acknowledging your self-image, so the way your body shape is. And again, there's no judgment on it, but is your body shape very similar to, say, your parents? Is that the body shape that you want? Again, it's not about the standards of social media or what's out there. Is it your body shape? Is it your diseases? Is it your reflection of who you want to see in the mirror? If it's not, just acknowledge that it's not. You don't have to cut yourself down, degrade yourself, degrade your parents, and all that. Just honor yourself, honor your parents. They didn't know any better, you didn't know any better. So instead of blaming, let's take responsibility and go, hey, you know what? Now that I understand, let's do something about it. Are there other possibilities that you could see yourself in? And again, it's not about another relationship. It's not about more money. It's your identity. Do you have to run those patterns that you do? Other people don't. That's why they're different than you. They look different than you. They might be in the same boat, going the same way, distorted way, but they're doing it differently than you are. There's billions of ways that people do it. They might be going the same path. That doesn't matter. I'm just giving you possibilities on the billions of ways that you could run a human life. And then do we have to go the direction of most everybody? Or is there a total different way we could look at going? Trying to find who we are. So noticing your back, your backbone, your spine from the top right down into your tailbone. There's a lot of good people online. They do the best that they do. But what if you've been taught the direction that you're going is the wrong way? And then the tools that you're using, well, it's your parents' tools. Like say if you're digging a road, you're using pickaxes, shovels, bare hand. It's like the way they used to do the railroad at the time. Your efforts, although well intended, they're not providing you anything. Again, look at your parents, look at society. Even the advanced individuals. Really time to take a look at a different mythology. Just to give you an idea, you're building a road to awakening or enlightenment, better human consciousness, because everybody wants to save the world. But the road that we're digging, say, is going north-south or east-west, going from east to west. So you're heading towards west. Everybody's going that direction. Technology, religion, all that stuff. You're going that direction. And then finally somebody wakes up. Says, hey guys, you know what? We read the map wrong. We're supposed to go from west to east. So it's the same effort, but you're going in the right direction this time. So you don't have to change a thing. Again, many of you here on the calls, really good people. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't made a mistake. It's just the wrong direction. Your efforts of what you're doing is top-notch. You're really committed to be the best possible person that you could be with the tools that you have. But as we take a deep breath in again from the core of the earth or the base of your spine, whether you're a kid, a really young kid, middle-aged, old, or seems like there's a lot that don't even understand English. Totally fine. What if somebody in your higher consciousness says, hey, you know what? We're going the wrong way, but we're using outdated tools. What if we gave you bulldozers or jetpacks? We don't even need to pave a road. We just get to our direction faster because it's not about paving a road. We've even got stuck on that. Why do we even have to pave a road? We could use flight. Right? There's lots of possibilities of getting to that objective. And a lot of them have nothing to do, say, with physical consequences or what you do physically. Belief systems, praying, meditating, whatever it is. It's a state of being. Your praying, meditating comes after that. Most people do it the other way to get into that state of being. It doesn't work. You have to be, and then whatever you do afterwards, your religions, your thoughts, your mantras, your goal setting, your teachings, your learnings, that comes after you're clear. Otherwise, whatever you do, say, is distorted by who you are. For those individuals who are unaccelerated, again, it's really time for you to take ownership. Because as this wave comes through, you're the pioneers that everybody's going to look towards. And you're seeing that. A lot of, say, disturbed people are coming towards you, needing help or seeking help. So you need to stand strong. For those people who are new to this, like a really deep awakening, going, I better get my shit in gear. Taking a strong, deep breath in. Again, nice, strong inhaling through the nose, holding that. Whenever you're ready, exhaling again, taking control. Okay, not me telling you what to do, but then you controlling yourself. I just want to talk about that for a second. Even for those who are unaccelerated. So if you've been controlled at some level, even if, again, accelerated, you've moved away from that. So when somebody says, hey, let's go to restaurant Y, and then you go, okay. So basically you gave up control. That's a simple example. But look at all the times that you've done that and you go, okay, and you gave up control. Does that make sense? It's like taking control of your breath. So if you like restaurant Y, it's not about going, no, let's go somewhere else, because that defeats the purpose. It's about control. So you go, okay, I want to go to restaurant Y, or yes, why don't we go to restaurant Y? It's a huge difference, because then you're making the command to yourself. It's really important as you ascend higher, again, on the accelerated, but it works for the beginners as well. Because if you can't take that control, as you ascend higher, things move faster, somebody else controls you. And you get, say, sideswiped. Because you're not taking that control. So those two statements, very, very different. and I stay silent, it hasn't been for that long. Some of the new people going, well, is he done? Are we through? Again, you've lost control. Should have just stayed in your space. Doesn't matter if I was done, disconnected. Should have maintained your stability. Again, it's not a cut down. I'm just coaching you to be aware of some of those ways that you've lost control. And these are simple things, by the way. But as you awaken, there are more complex things that you have to be aware of. Again, many of you in accelerated are sensing that. That's why I bring that out. It's not like this all the time, but you're learning a new path, a new paradigm. And then it becomes natural for you, okay? You should have learned this when you were a kid, unfortunately. Again, it's not a cut down, it's just a statement. If you do feel like it's a cut down, good. Force yourself to grow from it. As we end, for those individuals who can hang out here, highly recommend it. For those of us who can't, whenever you're ready, one last exhale, just confirming that we want, say, more possibilities. Newer opportunities. Opening your eyes whenever you're ready. Feeling whatever that you want to feel. It's your life. If you're feeling refreshed, relaxed, complete, confident, that's good. And if you're feeling detoxy, confused, unsure, that's good too. Just note it. If you don't like it, change it. Somebody stop the recording. So again, guys, if you're on Accelerate, you can stay online. We're just going to finish up. So tomorrow, again, whether you're online or here, it's human consciousness, the new paradigm. So we're going to get into, say, deeper content on that. It was kind of heavy today. It'll probably be heavier tomorrow, but that's but it's really a transformative transformational space for you. And then also we're going to be doing a lot more, say, meta healings. So it's less talk and then more, well, just more reprogramming. Okay, so we're going to do a hell of a lot more just reprogramming. So drink a lot of water, especially here. Bring some water with you. It'll probably be hot again tomorrow. Okay. If you haven't signed up, I think there's still opportunities to sign up. Obviously online we have unlimited space, but here not so much. So take a look at that. And then Sunday we have the kids event, 0 to 18, online and in person. Obviously I can't work on the people online. Well, I can, but I don't think it's set up that way, right? We're not doing that. No, I'm just going to work on the people, on the kids who are here physically. Okay. If you're new to me, the 21-day meta healings, every month, the first 4 days are free. And even within the first day, you'll see the shifts happening for you. Right? So, and if you like it, you can choose to stay on. If you don't, well, that's good too. It's all up to you. Right? There's a lot of free content, by the way, on what I do. So take a look at that as well. All right, guys? And thanks for being here, guys. Notice what you notice, and then notice the details. All right, guys? Thank you so much.